Hello, I'm Elizabeth, an obsessive backyard gardener who might be able to offer you a couple of tips.
And I'm Keith, a landscape consultant, and I'm also passionate about gardening.
The one thing we both have in common is muddy boots. Winter might feel like the quietest season in the garden, but if we look a little closer, we'll find that it's actually full of life, texture and surprise. On today's podcast, Keith and I are going to chat about the plants that truly shine through winter and how we can bring that magic into our gardens to bring them to life during the colder months. So, Keith, winter is often overlooked as a feature season in Australian gardens. Why do you think that is?
Because we've got so many deciduous trees in our gardens that just lose life, and that's what it looks like.
But they can look good.
Exactly, but that's the way we look at it.
Okay.
And I guess from my perspective, I've got so many fruit trees in the backyard, and in winter they're just
bit dormant.
They're just dormant.
Bit dormant looking. They're not
happening.
they're not dormant, but they look dormant. What are the features of a plant that really make it shine in winter? How can we, how do we get a bit of happiness and a bit of excitement going?
Well, yeah, I guess you've got to look at the sorts of things that of plants anyway that you would really love to have in your garden itself, and then think about it from a seasonal perspective. Yeah. So the things that you like, choose for your winter foliage and winter colour and flowers.
So we've got to think. Don't think about deciduous trees. Or think about evergreen trees and whether they flower and when they flower.
But even some evergreen trees some deciduous trees will still produce flowers, won't they?
And tell us which ones.
Well, some of the magnolias, for instance, will produce flowers. There's another great plant called Chimononsis praecox, which is otherwise known as winter sweet. They will also produce beautiful flowers on bare branches as well.
Okay.
And so there's then witch hazels. So there's a whole range of things that actually flower on bare branches that add interest and colour and fun to your garden.
So when you're drawing up a plan for a client, do you consider each season and think about or does it comes from the client or discuss with the client?
It is. It's all to do with the client's brief. That's that. But there are often parts in people's gardens that I design where you've got to have that wonderful show of leaf and form and colour and shape and flower, and you get a lot of that with with evergreen plants that produce those beautiful, colourful buds.
You got a quick list? I know you've given us a few mentions then, but any more that you can think of?
Well, people think that the best way to get colour in your garden in winter is using things like camellias, for instance. And there's such a huge range of wonderful coloured camellias that are flowering during this otherwise bleak time of the year.
Yeah.
There's other things like gardenias, for instance. They're flowering during the winter. Daphnes.
And
they're giving flowers and this magnificent perfume.
Fragrance, that's right.
And Daphnes have come a long way because they've actually started to hybridise them and change the colours and the shapes of them. So
good.
So
there's a bit more of a variety.
There's more of a variety than just the dumb old Daphne odora.
It's not dumb, but yes, I agree.
Hellebores.
Yes. Yep, beautiful.
They're an absolute standout plant for all sorts of magnificent colours, and if anyone wants to have a really good look at a great website and a great nursery, have a look at Post Office.
Yes,
we actually saw those at MIFCA's. This year we walked past their stand.
Yes.
They've got some wonderful ranges of hellebores with double coloured and double pinks and just magnificent. And they just look fantastic in the garden. They really do.
They do. How important are shapes, silhouettes and textures when flowers aren't around so much?
Well, yeah, you get a lot of that. And I've noticed that a few of my clients are now adopting the issue of allowing plants to go through their dormancy and still seeing the beauty that they produce,
That's good.
And a lot of people use grasses for that particular instance. Something like miscanthus, for instance, it will go into these beautiful bronze colours during the winter period. And some of them look absolutely stunning when they get a bit of dew on them. They get spiders' webs on them. they look absolutely fantastic.
Adds real interest to the garden.
So
definitely.
lots of interest. So, and there's lots of plants that will give you those shapes and forms that work one off the other in terms of their foliage without the flowers. Just beautiful.
Crepe myrtle is one that I often think of because that is beautiful, obviously, in summer. Well, it's beautiful all through the year, from spring through to winter, because once it loses its flowers and its leaves, it's then got the beautiful bark that is, changes colour and really is gorgeous too. So that's
absolutely gorgeous.
All throughout the year. Can you suggest a few hardy architectural plants for different climates across Australia?
I guess some of the standouts for the architectural forms of flowers and foliage are more in the native range, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of winter, for instance, there's so many Banksias that are actually flowering. Birthday candles is a beautiful dwarf form that's got these beautiful vertical stripes of their yellow flowers coming up on a soft foliage, for instance. But all the Banksias will produce flowers during the winter period. This is their time. Grevilleas are another outstanding plant for winter flowers. And from the old Grevillea robusta, which was that huge tree with the great big fern-like leaves and then the big yellow flowers, they've hybridized that to have so many smaller shapes in terms of the compact bush sizes, but fantastic coloured flowers on those. So they're just absolutely stunning.
Beautiful.
And there's a range that we don't see a lot of in nurseries, but if you actually took the time to go and research them, there is a range of beautiful flowers called hakeas.
Yes.
And hakeas have magnificent coloured blossoms, from pinks to reds to yellows to whites. They're just absolutely stunning.
Gorgeous.
Yep.
So much
so
colour.
That's the native
so much
range.
colour to consider.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask this question, low maintenance. Which flowering plants are low maintenance but still high in impact? So the ones that you've mentioned, fairly easy to deal with?
They will all look after themselves because they've been changed to provide a certain size and nothing bigger. So they don't need a lot of cleaning back or cutting back. You might just need to deadhead a few of the flowers off during the spring and early summer, but they look after themselves. Another great one that's flowering during the winter period, of course, is kangaroo paws.
Yes.
And we saw it at the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show.
We did.
Some of the new ranges of kangaroo paws, the pinks that are coming out now, they're just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. Can't wait to get some in my garden, in fact.
Beautiful,
yeah,
beautiful.
Really, really lovely. How can we use foliage colour like silvers, blues, greens, those sort of things to create interest through the garden?
My go-to plants for those would be some of the euphorbias, for instance.
Yep.
You can get some gorgeous silver forms of that. But also using lavender, for instance. And there's so many different lavenders that actually flower during the winter period, and they've changed a lot of those up. And I've just recently put in probably around about 25 new lavender plants in my garden. So
some new ones, new varieties?
No, old varieties, but old performers. Okay. So I've got some Lavandula hidcote, which is that beautiful English form, but it's a small 400 mil by 400 mil size. So it's a beautiful compact form with beautiful sprays of lavender flowers coming off that. And that's probably one of the most sought after ones for fragrance, for inside the home.
Okay.
That's a beautiful plant. Yes, but euphorbias are great, something like Charachias, wolf and eye. They're beautiful for the garden. And then if you want a real contrast.
There are so many varieties of euphorbias.
Oh, there is,
so many.
And people in certain areas are a little bit scared to come across euphorbias because they're worried about them, being invasive. But if you go for the hybrids, you're not going to have problems with them.
And they're worried about the milky sap as well.
Yeah.
Make sure you're careful with the milky sap. That's all.
The milky
when
sap,
you're cutting it back. Yeah. Are there plants apart from the one I mentioned, which was the crepe myrtle, other plants with striking bark or berries or stems that people can consider as well?
Yeah, things like the smoke bushes, for instance.
Oh, I can't wait to put one in front garden.
I mean, they're absolutely gorgeous when you actually see those without their forms.
Yeah.
But there's also other plants that will produce beautiful bark colours. So in the reds and the yellows, for instance, you've got plants that will produce magnificent foliage forms. Things like the maples in the Acer line.
Yeah, yep.
They've got lots of beautiful things.
Yes.
There's also some sensational coloured dogwoods, for instance, that will produce red bark, and there's others that will have yellow bark. So when you see those planted in clumps in a garden without any leaves on them, they still look beautiful and structural.
Yeah, they definitely do stand out. Now, we've talked about the Daphne, we talked about gardenias. What else as far that can you think of any others that have a lovely fragrance that do you think might be great through the winter period, obviously?
Yeah, I don't think you go past Liculia.
Liculia.
Gratissima.
Trying to remember it, but I can't.
Yeah, it's got a very, very large leaf on it, so it's a big, long leaf, but it has these magnificent sprays of pink and white flowers that emit this magnificent perfume.
Okay.
So it's sensational. Yeah. Another one that has this incredible perfume that should still be producing flowers in winter is one called Cestrum nocturnum. So Cestrum nocturnum is otherwise known as the night-scented jessamine.
Yes.
You've got to be very careful with this because all parts of the cestrum is poisonous, so don't eat it. All right, don't go and chop it up, put it on your salad. But the actual flowers from just a tiny little pinch of bouquet in your room will lift the whole room. It's just a cloying perfume. It's just unbelievable.
Do you have it in the garden?
I've got 2 of them in the garden.
Okay.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Best place for them is outside a bedroom window.
That's right. That was going to be a question.
Yep.
Where do we plant things like this? I suppose you plant them somewhere where you're going to brush past
them. Yeah. So
or the
lavender.
back door, the front door.
Yep. Lavender is great to walk past and brush against that. Even rosemary, which is still flowering into that period. They also produce that beautiful perfume when you brush past it as well. So that's fantastic.
Do plant choices differ much between the cooler southern states and the warmer regions? I think they probably do a bit.
This has been quite interesting from my perspective. Having designed a lot of gardens that are in arid areas, for instance, you still can cram in an awful large range of plants. So that's been very interesting. So I'm constantly using the heat zone and the cold zone to sort of determine the range of plants that will fit in those conditions. So the heat zone and the cold zone. We're 4 and 10 down here on the coast. Up at somewhere like Warren, where Jess is, she's got I think she's got 8 and 9B. So really, really tight. So incredibly hot, incredibly cold.
Right. Okay.
But
you've done some designs up there.
There's a design for Jess, and we've crammed in an enormous amount of wonderful plants that will just lift for the whole year in her garden.
Okay.
And then Hopefield, which is currently under construction at the moment, their heat zone up there is 7 and 9B, so a bit wider. And then I've got a job coming up shortly in South Australia in Perilla, which is in the Mallee in South Australia, and their heat zone is 6 and 9B. So things open up a lot more, depending where you are. Yeah. But you can still, if you do your research, you can still put an awful lot of great plants into all those environments for sure.
Okay. What are some reliable performers that work across most of Australia? What do you come up with? The top
Mediterranean
5?
plants.
Top 5. Oh, okay.
So Mediterranean plants, and if you wanted to walk out your backyard, for instance, you'd see an awful lot of Mediterranean plants out there. So closely, you got the beautiful silver blue foliage with the festucas. Mm-hmm. So there's Festuca glauca, there's Festuca glauca Elijah blue, which you've got out there, which just lifts everything that's close to your eyes and highlights the plants behind.
It's a great variety, a great variable. Against the darker greens.
Exactly. Things like for sensational foliage, I think the Strobiolanthes gossipinus you've got out there has got that beautiful felted leaf with that bronze with this grey undertone on it, which looks absolutely sensational. Yeah. And then euphorbias and other types of grasses that are out there as well all lift. So these are all Mediterranean plants that will tolerate enormous, areas within Australia to grow and perform.
Okay, fantastic. What is the best way to layer plants so there's always something happening through the seasons?
Then you need to select the colours firstly. So have things closer to you that are maybe in grey forms, and then step behind that with a darker coloured leaf. A great combination that I like to use in a huge range of plants, things like Santalinas.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's Santalina chamisopyrus, which has got this beautiful silver foliage with yellow button flowers on it. And then you can use the same Santalina, but one called Rosemary unifolia, which has got this gorgeous green ferny-like foliage. And those two really work one well against the other.
Yeah.
And then if you want to mix that up and go for a beautiful purple foliage, there's euphorbias. Blackbird is a great one.
Yep.
And this job in Hopefield, I've had to substitute blackbird because it's not available. But there's another one called Euphorbia purpurea. It's Amaglottis.
Something.
Something or other, but it's a purpurea, so it is a purple form.
Yeah.
And it really works well with yellows and with silvers.
So if you can't find one, you usually find another.
You've got to sub that with something else. I mean, unfortunately, nurseries aren't like supermarkets. They're not continually supplying things, so things are just going to change.
Things aren't always available throughout the year because they become dormant or whatever they do. What specific winter tasks should gardeners do to help their plants to thrive through the colder months?
Well, with all the plants that are not deciduous, you can still go out there and give them a bit of a feed. Think about that.
Yeah. A liquid feed, perhaps.
So liquid feed, mulching is important. Compost is incredibly important because you've got to keep them going all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, using the prepping fork, the FD Ryan prepping fork to go around and open up that soil to get that moisture down, to get the air, to get everything else.
Yep.
The compost and the myco gold, all that sort of stuff. So it's a continuing phase through, regardless of what the season is.
Yeah. When should we be using it? When should we be using that prepping calendar? Prepping fork, according to the moon calendar.
Exactly.
Okay. If someone could only plant 3 to 5 things to improve their winter garden, Keith, what are those 3 to 5 things on the top of your list?
Plant-wise?
Yes, please. Yes, plant-wise.
Okay. I would love to think about putting a range of both incorporating, say, native plants in with exotic plants, in with Mediterranean plants.
Yep.
I think that's a great key with it. Because you get some fabulous contrast with the strappy foliage of, say, the kangaroo paws, with other Europe, like Mediterranean type
exotic plants.
Yeah. It's just that combination and that layering effect that you put together that actually gives the whole thing that just wonderful lift in your garden.
Sounds great. I think we've got some colour happening. We've got some interest happening in our winter gardens from now on, if we haven't already. So winter doesn't have to be the sleepy season we often think it would be. With the right plant choices, our gardens can have structure, colour and fragrance right through the coldest months. We hope this episode inspires you to rug up, step outside, not inside, step outside and see your winter garden in a whole new light. Thank you for joining us and happy winter gardening. Thank you for listening to Muddy Boots. For more information on today's podcast, please go to muddyboots.net.au and happy gardening.